Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be putting together pages 7, 8, and 9 in my 2024 December daily. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so before I get started on putting it together, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a look at where we are so far. So if you'd missed it, I have process videos for all of these earlier pages, so I'm just going to flip through it quickly. But day 1, I have this like 3 flip starting page. Day 2 is a little more detailed, decking the halls. Day 3 is about ornaments. Day 4, I did my front door wreath. 5 was music. And 6 was about my to-do list, and I have some longer journaling in this pocket. Just trying to line it up so that tab gets in there. Okay, so then day 7 is here. So this was my initial plan. I had day 7 was going to be a full page photo. Day 8 was about visiting my daughter in Starbucks. I'm not doing that this weekend. I will probably maybe do that next weekend. So I'm just going to take this out and rearrange this. Then 9 and 10, I'd originally planned on going to New York City for work. That got canceled, and then I have a different trip, which is actually the 18th through 19th, which I need to fix that on here. So let me grab my pen. So it looks like I'm going to New York City the 18th through the 19th, like that. So I'm going to move this New York City plan to there. And then I'm going to do something different for 8 and 9. So before I get too far, I'm just going to go ahead and like move these things, put them back in here like this. So they don't have to be on the days I originally planned. That was just like a loose outline, which is why I like to have these like in pockets as opposed to already planned out. So this is where I'm starting. And I had originally written these like this. I switched it around and I'll show you why in a second. So I decided my stories for 7, 8, and 9. So for number 7, I'm going to talk about the craft community, which is basically about this project and just connecting with others through this project in the community and how that's a big part of my December tradition. Day 8 is about my new mug organizer, and day 9 is about a mug swap that I organized with some friends. So let's see here. I have some stuff printed. So for the craft community, I printed this for journaling, and I'm going to use this like documenting on here. And I think I'm going to do some large stamping. And then I printed one of the images that I shared on my Instagram because I did some features over on the Allie Edwards blog. So I'm going to use that. So that's going to be day 7 or day 8. No, day 7. Well, my plan was for this to be day 7, but I realized I planned it to be on the back. So maybe this will actually be day 8. The reason I had switched it was because this was going to be day 7. And my mug organizer, I didn't want the holes here. But you know what? I think this is going to be better because I can cover some of this with journaling. So this is day 7, which is my new mug organizer. So I love mugs and I collect seasonal mugs. And the holidays, of course, this is one of the best times to have them. And I love this little nook in my kitchen. And I recently got a new mug organizer because the one that I had was the cubbies. It was very cute, but the cubbies were too small and some of my oversized mugs didn't fit. And now all of my mugs fit. So I love it so much. So I'm going to tell that story for day 7. Day 8 is this craft community story. And then for day 9, I have this in here for my foundation pages. And so I did a little journaling. I'm going to put this in one of them. And I did a mug swap with a group of friends. And so I took the photo of me with my mug. And then I took photos of 2 of the other girls in the group, the one that I sent a mug to and the person who sent a mug to me. And I'm going to put them on here too. And I will add the number and maybe some embellishing or something in one of the last ones, or a title. So that's going to be that page. So I think these are going to come together pretty quickly because I did a lot of this planning in advance on the computer. I'm just going to move this there. So I'm not sure I'm going to do anything on the back of this. I think I kind of like it just as is, but I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward as I get these put together. Okay, so my plan for this one was to include a tag with a little bit of journaling, and I wanted some other fun things hanging with the tag. I initially thought about making a pocket for it or just adhering it down, but I wanted it to kind of be free flowing. And there was something I did in my album last year where I had a free flowing tag. And I actually went and looked at that album. I will put a picture of that image up on the screen so you can see what I did last year that I'm kind of copying. But I wanted it to be sort of a cluster of embellishments hanging from here. So I'm looking through a few of the products that I have. The squares this year, the scalloped edge squares, I felt were too kind of harsh for this. So I ended up going with a star, and I ended up picking a wood star as well. And I'm just kind of going through all of the embellishments, trying to remember what I have and see if anything kind of speaks to me as something I want to include as part of my hanging tag. So I select one of these gold rim circles. I don't know if these were from this year or if these are older, but they're super cute. I hope to use more of them. And I see also those other ones I looked at, I really liked as well. So I was kind of making a mental note to use them on another page. And then I pulled over my a container of sevens, and I was considering using one of these sevens to hang on the tag, but I ultimately decided to go with a sticker at the bottom of my tag along with my journaling because 7 wasn't really a great number to hang. I guess I could have put it on top of a tag or something, but I was really kind of thinking about that and considering if there was anything that one of these smaller gold puffy number stickers could work with. I also wanted to go through my larger embellishments just to see if there was anything that really stood out to me that I wanted to include here as well. And ultimately, nothing ends up standing out to me. So I go with what I have here and one of the wood stars. And then I'm going to end up punching some holes and using some twine to hang this tag on here. But I also am going to do a little bit of journaling on it before I adhere anything down. Okay, so my journaling here is just about my new mug organizer. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know that I love mugs and I love coffee. And I have a coffee nook in my kitchen. And I've had a mug organizer in this section of my kitchen for a while, but the one that I had, while it was super cute, it didn't hold oversized mugs. So my collection was a little scattered and I didn't love it. So I finally found one that I really liked online. I found it on Etsy and I ordered it and it came this early December. So I was able to put my Christmas mugs in my mug organizer. So this tag, I'm journaling about my new mug organizer and about my seasonal mugs, which is something I really love. I do it year round. I rotate out my mugs for the season, but for Christmas, I feel like there's
just a little more fun to it and a little more of a seasonal flair to my collection. I think the rest of this year, I have a few seasonal ones and some like everyday ones. But for the holidays, my ultimate goal is to have 12 holiday ones out here. And I think I'm pretty close to that because my organizer does hold 12. I also, in case you missed one of my last videos, I wanted to mention that I have been using an Energel Clena pen. And this pen is new to me. It was one that was highly recommended online and it's just kind of a cute looking pen. So I decided to try it out and I am really loving it. I still love the Sarasa Mark-On and I will for sure use those as well. I will probably switch back and forth. This is also a 0.5 tip, but I feel like it's maybe a little bit thinner and a little bit drier than the Sarasa Mark-On. So if you are looking for a new pen and that sounds like something you'd like, I do recommend this one, and I will be using them in a lot of my spreads and my journals, in addition to the Sarasa Mark-On and my other pens as well. So now I'm working on putting this together, and I tried this twine first, and I cut out some of the footage here because I spent so long trying to get this twine to work. It was just a little too thick for my holes. But I did punch 2 holes there so that I could have the thread or the twine go in both sides, and that way I would have this tag like hanging in the middle of my page as opposed to like going off the edge, which is what I did last year. So if you wanted to do something like this, you need to punch 2 holes in your paper and keep them far enough apart that it's not going to tear between the 2 holes. So here I switched and I'm using this other twine, which was a little bit thinner. But anyways, you need your thread to go through both holes, and then you have both pieces on the front, and you're just going to pull all of your ephemera or different tags or anything that you're including through here, and then you're going to tie it in a bow or however you want it tied on the front. And then for a last step, what you want to do is pull it so that it is how you want it to hang, and then just adhere the twine in the back to the back of your paper. I hope that makes sense, but basically that will prevent it from like slipping around too much and just kind of staying how you have everything hanging. You could see me there trying it all out, and then I'm tying my knot, and now you'll see what I'm talking about, where see how it kind of shifts where the knot will fall down a little bit, and I want the knot to be like at the very top. So what I'm doing is I'm arranging it so the knot is at the top. I'm just going to cut off the end so it's the right length. And then with the knot at the top, I'm going to flip this over and adhere it down on the back with a piece of washi. And I thought I was going to do that already. Here you go. So I'm pulling it through so it's how I want it arranged on the front, where the knot is where I want it. And then I'm just going to use some washi tape from my stash and just adhere that down there so it won't shift through anymore, and it will just hold it in place a bit more, but you can still move all of the pieces out of the way to read the journaling. And I super, super love how that one came out. I'm not going to punch the holes yet because I'm going to go ahead and work on day 8, which goes on the back of it. And once these are completed, I'll adhere them back to back and then punch my holes. Okay, so for day 8, I am documenting the craft community. And this is a story I've told in my album pretty much every year as far as I can remember. Probably not when I first started these because I wasn't so involved in the craft community. But for the last few years, especially, I have not only been a member of the craft community, but as someone who contributes to classrooms and shares my own content out there to hopefully inspire people. And I really love sharing my content. I really love getting positive feedback from people. I love seeing when someone takes inspiration from my idea and then uses it in their own project. So I really, really love this part of this project, especially because I feel like such a part of a community because we're all working on this project at the same time. And I love December Daily, but for me, I feel like making this album along with all of you guys makes it just that much more special to me. So I wanted to document that. And I did some typed up journaling ahead of time. And I'm just creating my title. I used some large stamps to stamp out my craft community. I originally was only going to write craft community, but it felt like it needed a little bit more to fill that space, which is why I added the word my in there. And then I had a little bit of extra space in the middle there to add that documenting. So I added some washi behind it. And now I wanted to add the number. So I got the idea to use a label sticker to add the number, and I'm going to type it out using my typewriter Olive. And so what I originally planned was to type out the word 8, and I just didn't center it well. So then I was like, okay, I'll start over and I'll write story 8. And I also messed that one up. And so I was like going to do another one. And I finally decided, I'm wasting too many of these labels trying this because I'm new to having a manual typewriter, and getting it to line up where I want it to be on the page is a little bit tough. But typing on these labels worked amazingly. So that's probably something I'm going to do again in this album because it was just so much fun, or in my other albums. So I ended up using the first one, even though it was a little bit off center. And then I took the whole thing over to my sewing machine and stitched down the word documenting. When I do sewing on my sewing machine, I pull the ends through to the back of the page, and then I'm going to use some Scotch tape to just adhere them in place. And that way there's no loose threads or knots or anything on the front of my paper. This only works, of course, if you have a back that's going to be hidden, but thankfully that's what I do. So that's what I plan to have most times. So now I'm just a little annoyed that 8 looks empty there with next to the typed out word. So I was thinking about that, wanting to fill it, but in the meantime, I know I'm not going to do any more stitching or anything. So I'm going to adhere both of these together and punch my holes. First, I have to just trim the edges to make sure everything's smooth. And I'm going to add some washi across the bottom because I clearly just didn't measure correctly when I cropped this out in the first place, and I didn't want to trim off more of my photo. So instead, I just added some washi there, which actually worked out really well to kind of ground the image. I feel like it made the page look more complete to me. So there's space there on the right-hand side that I left intentionally because I am going to punch my holes. But first I'm going to figure out what to do with that gap on that label. And I'm going through my stickers, trying to see if there's anything. I tried one of these circle stickers, and I ultimately don't like it because it's got a white background. And eventually I settle on just a small star, I believe. You will see me do that in a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and punch the holes and put this one into the album and move on to day 9. Okay, so day 9 started out easy because I'm working on this grid. And this is one of the die cut pages that was offered this year from Ali Edwards. And I love using pages like this to build my page because it's so easy to just work inside the grid. So I put my 3 photos on here and my typed up journaling, and now I have 2 more squares to fill. So my thought is that I'm going to create a title in one of them, and I'm going to add my number in the other one. So this page should have come together pretty quickly because I was working in this template, but I took a while to be kind of indecisive of figuring out what I wanted to put in each of these squares. In the top left one, I do end up stamping out my title, Mug Swap, which I love a ton. And in the bottom one, what I want to do is include my number. So I'm going through the scalloped edge squares because these fit perfectly on here, and I decide I want to use one of these as a base and then put my number on top of it. So I narrowed it down to a few of them, and then I'm going to go on and do my stamping for my title before I pull out my numbers and decide which one I'm going to use. I ended up leaving the footage in here as I tried to figure out which number to use, but I did fast forward it, so it's going to be on faster than what I'm doing now, which is 2 times speed, because I didn't think you wanted to sit through like 10 minutes of me being indecisive, but I did want you to see kind of all of the different things that I considered before I ended up selecting a number. So what I decided to do was I picked out this number that is a wood veneer one, and I have no clue who this is from manufacturer-wise because it's been in my stash for a while, and I'm going to heat emboss it. And December Daily is one of these times where I feel like I have permission to kind of pull out my supplies and just play with products. And I like to do this other times, but sometimes I just kind of forget, especially with these messier products like heat embossing, that they exist. So I really love December Daily for the opportunity to remind myself to just play with products. So I loved the way this number looked, like the shape and size and everything of it, but it was just wood, which looked a little unfinished to me. So I decided to heat emboss it black, and then I'm going to adhere it on top of one of the plastic squares, scalloped squares. The last thing I'm going to do to the page is, because those scalloped squares are actually tags, they have a punched out hole in them. It felt a little unfinished without anything in that hole, so I am going to go ahead and add a brad in there, and that will add a little bit of texture to the page as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the album and just kind of flip through quickly how everything comes together in here. But before I do that, I kind of think about how I'm already like more than a third done with this album and I have so many supplies I haven't touched. So I went through the 3x8 and pack of papers and I was considering putting one of the transparencies just in between these two pages just to add a little bit of something. And I tried the star one and I ultimately decide I don't love it there, but I do want to remember that I have these. So what I'm going to end up doing is just putting it after the 9 so that I will remember to use it on day 10 or 11. And I think I'm actually going to end up using it on day 10. So that's something to keep in mind too, that you can adjust your foundation pages as much as you want during the course of the month as you're working on your album and just kind of shift things around. There was a look at everything in my album. Then the last thing I have to work on is my sampler page. And what I kind of decided was I'm going to just work on this as I think of how I'm going to do each one. So I'm not necessarily going to do the same days on the same video, but I will include this as I work on it and do a little bit at a time every time I work on my December daily. And then either in my last video or close to there, I will share how this one finally comes together. And I will definitely share a final image of it over on my Instagram. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.